Welcome back, guys. Just want to make a very quick video today on how you can test for a head gasket, just a different way of testing it. We're going to use a scope and pressure pulse sensors for that. And a little bit of history. I had a video on how to check EGR cooler the other day. That's on YouTube, you can watch it. It was the same engine, so we end up replacing a second-hand engine and finished the job, and now it's got a head gasket issue. So it was a bad engine from the get-go, so that's an old engine there, just a waste of good 2 days on replacing that engine. So this is a very obvious problem. You can see from the radiator that it's got a head gasket issue. It is not a EGR cooler issue, it is a brand new EGR cooler. Also I have tested, even if it's a brand new one, I have tested it for leak. It's not the case, so it's definitely a head gasket issue. I'll quickly start the car, guys, and see. You can see for yourself the amount of leaks from this head gasket. Alright, guys, we got the car running. And you can see the coolant already pushing out of that radiator. I hope you guys can catch that. I'll just zoom that in there for you. Look at that coolant jumping up in that bubble, in that funnel. You can see it's pretty bad. I'll just turn the car off. Okay, that's where we at. So basically what I want to do is obviously this is not really necessary, but if anyone can benefit from this, just a different way of you can test the head gasket or any other cooling cylinder pressure leaking. I guess you can also check the EGR cooler leak between the exhaust and the coolant sides in the EGR cooler with this type of test, but I haven't done it, but maybe in the future I might try that. But this is purely to check the head gasket in this engine. So just show you the setup here. So what I have is just the funnel, just the radiator funnel there, with my radiator caps fitting there, and what we're going to use here is the pressure, just the pressure sensor, pressure pulse sensor. That's gonna go into my radiator, just a little setup there. So I'm just gonna quickly put that in there in the radiator, just in the hole in that funnel. Now I have a little setup here, if you can see, because this one had too much head gasket leak, so it was pushing the hose, my setup for the pressure sensor, pushing it out because it's just too much pressure. So I put a little T-piece here, just a T-piece little plastic fittings connector, so you can sort of send the excess pressure out into the atmosphere, and we only use a bit of a pressure that's building up in the system. All right, that's just a little tip there if it's got too much pressure. Also, we need to sync it with the cylinder, so I'm just getting a number 1 I'm getting a signal from the number 1 injector there. So just my setup there, just quickly zoom that in there, and I'll explain to you. Just my 20 amps amp clamp, and I'm using a breakout lead, so just a little breakout lead from the connector going into the injector there, so I didn't have to just open the wiring harness. That's all. It's pretty simple there. All right, let's start this test now. Just my Pico scope here. We got channel 2, channel B. This red channel is my pressure sensor, and we got channel C, which is the green channel here. It is going to be my amp clamp on the injector. So I'm just gonna go between -5 and 20 amps. 20 amps should be enough for diesel injectors, and on the pressure sensor I'm just gonna go around 2 volts for now. We'll see if we can increase if the waveform is too big, depending on the pressure. This one's you don't know, depending on the pressure we can change this voltage here. So we'll just keep it that way. We'll probably just maybe go around 200 millisecond, and I'll just start the car and we'll just collect some data. Just gotta make sure this amp clamp is on. Yeah. Alright, we got the car running now, and you can see on the screen we got some pressure, injector pulse. We'll just increase that voltage a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good there, ±5 volt. I'll just pause that and I'll turn the car off. Now we can discuss about this data we collected now. Okay, so it is pretty consistent. You can see it's very consistent. There's a pressure on this red channel is peaking pretty high, and we getting the signal of the channel on the green channel from injector, first injector number 1. So this is your number 1 injector turn on, so we're trying to sync it with that. It's pretty consistent. Right around that first injector firing, we see that the pressure is building up in the radiator. Without going too far, it's already looking like number 1 cylinder has a head gasket leak. It does have this little pressure follows after that. That could suggest there's other cylinders at fault too, but that pressure rise after that long spike is not really consistent. They're sort of coming and going. It could be again just a reaction of the pulse sensor. So on the pulse sensor, the bigger the pressure, it's gonna swing back bigger. So it's could be that. I'm not too sure here. So but we only gonna focus on this big spike at this stage because it's very obvious. Now let's just zoom that in. We'll probably take maybe, let's go maybe 2 or 3, and this is a multi-injection system, injector system. So you're gonna have pilot injection and main injection. So that's why you're seeing that 3 spike. I'll just zoom that in. That's why you're seeing that 3 amp waveform, because you're gonna have like 2 pilots maybe and 1 main fuel injection. So usually the main injection happens right around TDC, let's say 3-5 degree before TDC, and the pilot injection usually starts around you know, 30, I would say, give or take 30° before TDC. So if we sink around this main injection, that should be pretty much around TDC, I would say, just around there. But every car is a little bit different, so this is just sort of like a universal how they do the injection on diesel. Let's go back there again. Now we got 1, 2, 3. 3 injector event there. So what I want to do probably is I want to put the rulers here. Let's go, this is a 4-cylinder. Let's go there, and I'll just put this right around. We can be very precise and put it right around that injection, be precise and all that, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm just gonna be really roughly put it around TDC where I think it might be. All right, there you go. So now we got, you can see the 4 partitions, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4-cylinder engine, and just TDC indicator tool. Great tool to have in your toolbox. Oh, your computer for electrical diagnostics. We just have to choose the firing order at the top here, and I've already looked at it. This one is a 1, 3, 4, 2 firing order. We syncing on number 1 injector, so let's leave it at 1. And we'll just turn that chart on down here, pull it up, and we're just going to do a bit of a stretch and all that to bring it to where we want to be. All right, so basically right around there. That's pretty good. I'll just turn that, just bring that down a bit just for the easy viewing, that's all. Okay, right around there. I'll just hide that borders. Okay, now we can see here on number 1 cylinder what's happening here: power, exhaust, intake, compression. So you can see number 3, number 4, number 2. You can see what's the cylinders doing relation to what cylinder. You know, like for this one we're gonna focus on number 1. So usually when the head gasket leak, you have pressure buildup in the compression in the radiator. It's usually on a compression stroke. As the compression is going up, it's trying to push the gas. You know, cylinder is pressurized, head gasket is leaking, so that compression pressure is gonna go into the radiator, right? That's the basics how it works. So we're gonna focus on compression. So number 1, if you follow, compression stroke here. So as you can see, like I said, this is not a very precise way I'm doing it. I'm just doing it roughly, but you can have an idea. As soon as the compressors start climbing on cylinder 1, you can see the pressure is also start to climb until the compression is TDC up here. So it climbs just around before TDC. Now why is not till the TDC? Because you would think the pressure is gonna increase up until the piston is on TDC, but I would say there's some sort of delay here because of my my sensor, my pressure sensor setup. The hose could be a bit too long, you know, and it takes time for that gas to travel to the radiator. Maybe that's why it's delay here. Or it could be just my TDC marking is not right, where I'm thinking is the TDC, but roughly around there we know the piston is on TDC, right around that injection event. So I'm not too sure right there why it is a little bit delayed. Well, if you look on this chart, this pressure pulse could be of the cylinder 2, do we think, just because there's a delay? Is that why it's happening? Because it can't be any other cylinders, because compressor for 3 is up here, 4 is up here. Number 2, it could be just a delay on that pressure sensor, so it could be number 2. So for that reason, what I want to do quickly is I want to probably do it again, but I'm going to use a little bit shorter hose on that pressure tester. Sorry, not the pressure tester, the pressure sensor. Let's try that. I'll just leave everything as it is, and I'll just modify this hose setup here quickly. So instead of going there, alright guys, instead of using this long hose, I'm just gonna use a very short hose and see if that gives us a better picture on the for the waveform. So I'm just gonna use that setup there. I'm gonna start the car and see what kind of pictures we get. I pause that and I'll just turn the car off. Alright, let's go back on the computer here and let's see what we see. So I'll just zoom that in the same way we did it before. So let's just zoom that in that area there. Alright, let's set up our rulers here, just on that main injection, I believe. So we got 4 partition. Now we'll just put this TDC chart just around there. It's pretty close. All right, let's do a comparison here, then the last picture. Now, like we said, number 1 cylinder is our suspect at fault for head gasket leak. Compression is going up. As soon as the compression start on number 1, the compressor is going up, and TDC around here, this area, and the pressure starts to come down. I think that was our problem. The hose was a little bit too long for that pressure sensor, so it wasn't syncing with the time as the injector firing, I would say so. So let's just go back and we'll quickly have a look if it's consistent across the board. Let's go back to pictures before. Yeah, not on all waveform we have the pressure lining up with the injector, but it's pretty consistent. It's pretty, like you can see right here, it's pretty right on that injection pulse area, but here a little bit delay, but mostly it's right around TDC. I can see it's pretty consistent right around TDC. So yeah, I think the hose did make a shorter hose did make a little bit of difference there, but you got the idea. It is definitely the number 1 cylinder is at fault. I'm just gonna wrap it up here, guys. That's how one way to test a head gasket leak. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.